Yes, people, welcome back to Lead Judges TV. I'm your host, Dan Potts, and I'm with none other than a good friend of the show, Robbie Lyle. Rob, how you doing, man?
Yeah, I'm good, man. I'm good. Where's Lee?
Man, this is the question I get asked all the time. Where is Lead Judges on Lead Judges
Where's Lee
TV? Lead
Judges?
Judges, Lead Judges doesn't fancy turning up to his channel half the time, man. I was hoping he was going to be here tonight, but he's lagging again. He's out and about. He's a busy man, and I think it's just going to be us two. But do you know what? You're here, I'm here, and there's a lot to talk about, man. I wish there
Mm.
was more to talk about in terms of incomings, Rob. I ain't gonna lie, but we'll see what we can do in the next 24 hours. Before we do start, all of you in the chat, there's over 200 of you already listening live. Fantastic. Please smash the like button. Please subscribe to the channel Lead Judges TV. And if you haven't done so already and you're not subscribed to AFTV, what the hell are you doing? Get yourself over there and subscribe also. Good evening to everybody in the chat. Good evening to everybody listening on audio. There's only really one place to start, Robbie Lyle, and it's going to be this transfer window, man. Arsenal are leaving it late yet again. We have got 24 hours we're coming up to now of the window left. Simple question, Robbie. How concerned are you, mate?
Very concerned. Very concerned. The thing that concerns me the most, Dan, is the striker situation. Um, we've gone the whole of this transfer window, and we haven't brought in a striker yet. And obviously, the Aubameyang situation, it looks like a lot of the talk is that he's going to be going out on loan to Barcelona.
Yep.
It just leaves us so short. And when I look at it, the area of real weakness at the moment for Arsenal, and we've got the evidence, so you've only got to look at what we saw during the month of January, is we don't score enough goals.
Mm.
Lacazette scored 3 goals this season in the Premier League, and Eddie Nketiah scored 0 goals. And we saw the other day in the game against Burnley, in those sort of really tight games, you may only get 1 or 2 chances. We got a chance, we didn't take it. The Everton game, remember that game when we lost that game? When it was 1-1, we had a chance. Eddie Nketiah is about 2 yards out, headed it against the bar. He also had a chance when it was 0-0 against Nottingham Forest, headed that wide from about a couple of yards out. So it's so obvious that we need a clinical striker because, as I said, we'll have more games like that between now and the end of the season, pressurized games where, sometimes you're just playing against a team that's fighting for their lives. They put everybody behind the ball and you may only get one chance. And we need a striker. And I really do feel if Aubameyang goes, we're just leaving ourselves so short. And that is the area of the field that worries me the most. The midfield situation is a worry as well, but I feel that was more a worry early on in the month. And that's another subject. Why didn't we get a midfielder early on in the month? We left ourselves short there. But right now, the biggest problem that I see is the striker department. And, to be fair, let me just say, to be fair to Arsenal, Mikel Arteta and Edu, they went after Dusan Vlahovic right from the start of the window. They were going to put a big amount of money on the table to get that deal done. And that would have been brilliant if they'd have pulled that off. But they didn't. Right? They didn't pull it off. Unfortunately, he ended up going to Juventus. And I don't see at the moment a plan B unless maybe tomorrow they pull off a shock and surprise us all. So we're going to have to wait and see, I guess.
Yeah, we will have to wait and see. I wanted to come on to it's got 24 hours pretty much left. Like, I've got two things to ask. What do you think will happen? And if nothing does happen, Rob, this has got to go down as one of the most bizarre and shambolic transfer windows in the history of the club. So what do you expect to happen in the next 24 hours, mate?
I expect Aubameyang to go out on loan, but even that's dependent upon, I do feel that's dependent upon if they can move on Ousmane Dembele, Barcelona.
Agreed.
If they can't, how are they going to be able to afford it? I mean, that's the other thing. It's been weird because at the start of the window, we were being told that Barcelona can't afford wages, ain't got no money. Even they've been able to pull off deals. But I do think in order for them to bring in Aubameyang, they need to move on Dembele, and that's not going to be easy for them. So I think that that could happen. I think maybe there's a possibility we could get Arthur from Juventus. Because Juventus has said they don't want to let him go unless they can get another midfielder in. They may possibly be bringing in Dennis Zakaria from Borussia Mönchengladbach. So that might make way for that deal. But apart from that, I really don't see what else at this moment in time we're going to do. We need a striker, and we need a top quality striker. And all the targets, some of the targets have been spoken about. Isaac, Victor Osimhen, Calvert-Lewin. How are you going to get them away on the last day of the window? I just can't see it. Because even if a team did, so let's say Real Sociedad were willing to do business on Isaac, they're going to want a replacement. Are they going to be able to find a replacement in such a short space of time? So I really don't know, to be honest. Maybe they'll pull off a bit of a shock. You do see this a lot of times in January where all of a sudden something out of the blue. I mean, the other night when Callum Chambers left the club, shocked me. I wasn't expecting that. So you never know. Maybe Arsenal pull off some sort of madness on the last day, but at the moment, apart from Arthur, I really don't know.
Well, let's look at things seriously. We all know that we need a striker, that's obvious, right? And the centre midfield we'll come on to in a minute. But I look at the centre forwards that we've got at this club. Mikel Arteta can't get any of them scoring. Pepe's been in Africa but is out of favour anyway. I know that he's coming back now, so we'll see what happens there. We've got Martinelli, who's a wide forward. Eddie Nketiah, we all know that his level is not Arsenal, and his contract's up anyway, and we're rejecting bids. Aubameyang's future looks to be away from Arsenal, and even if he does stay, I don't think he's going to be implemented back into the squad, let alone the first 11. And that leaves Lacazette, as you said, who's only scored 3 goals this season, and also his contract is up in the summer. We've got Balogun, who's out on loan. If we don't bring in a striker, Rob, then we can kiss goodbye to any top 4 chances, and who knows that we're even going to get in the top 6 without scoring goals. So for me, what we have to do in this 24 hours, we have to go and try to release the clause of Alexander Isak, because if we're going to get to a stage where Dominic Calvert-Lewin and some of the other targets need replacements if they want, they're not going to happen because they're going to hang on to them till the summer. So I think personally, what we have to do now is be really smart and say, right, what I personally believe there is no plan B. So I think the damage is already done, personally. I'm really disappointed in Mikel Arteta and Edu anyway, but this is just proven to me that they ain't ready and they're lacking in experience, unless they can pull off something magnificent in the next 24 hours. I've got nothing wrong with the ambition of Vlahovic. I love it. I absolutely love the fact, and I'd love it in the summer if we were in a released Haaland's clause. He might tell us where to go and say no thank you, but the ambition's there. I always think we should be demanding the best at the football club, so I've got nothing wrong with that. But if Vlahovic then turns around and says no thank you, I'm going to go Juve, what are you going to do then, Mikel and Edu? What are you going to do then? Because it doesn't look like you've got an answer at the moment. You're making yourself look foolish. For me, if we end up with Jack Wilshere and Diego Costa coming in, they're just going to look incompetent for me. So we need to take our next signings to the next level. Now, a lot of people are saying, well, I don't just want to go and get panic buys. I understand you don't want to go and get panic buys. Don't get rid of 8 players then. Wait until players come in and then go, and if you think, oh, do you know what, we need someone to bolster the squad, but at least we've still got Callum Chambers, Pablo Mari, Ainsley Maitland-Niles, Balogun, if we need them. Getting rid of all them, it's just schoolboy for me at the moment. So they need, in my opinion, to bring in a few players, and one of them has to be a striker. Rob, before I come to you, obviously Chaitanya's put in a super chat. Chaitanya, thanks very much, mate, yet again. Disappointed with the business, he says. He's dropped out of cups and some points due to lack of a centre midfield. And now for top 4, we need a striker. Else the season is slipping away. Cheers. Rob, let me ask you about Alexander Isak. Do you think that's a realistic target? Because he is, for me, the only one at the moment that we are even being linked with up top.
I don't. No, I don't see. Listen, I can be wrong, but I don't see how we're going to get him away on the last day of the transfer window. Real Sociedad, they're pushing for European places. If they, I guess he has got a release clause, but that's a very £75 million for Alexander Isak. I really do think that'd be a panic buy. I don't think he's worth that. I just, there's other targets like Jonathan David at Lille. There's Victor Osimhen at Napoli. But again, it's the same situation where these are top players for their club. Are they going to want to leave themselves short on the last day of the window? So I really do think we put ourselves in a real situation here. We should have had a plan B for, and maybe they might do. As I said, we don't know because it's still one day to go, right? So maybe they might do, but there needs to be a plan B because I agree. You said something a little earlier, which I agree with, is that if we don't buy a striker, I really do feel that getting into the top four is seriously in doubt because the margins, those margins where you need a player to score goals, we just don't have to. Eddie Nketiah has not scored a goal. I know he's only, he hasn't played a lot of games, so let's be fair to him. But at the end of the day, he scored no goals this season. And Lacazette has only scored 3. And we need goals, man. We need a regular goal scorer in that team. And, that's the thing. You look at Manchester United, for instance, right? And that's what recently has really helped them. You know what I mean? They can bring on a Rashford in, as a substitute who gets them a last-minute winner. They can bring Cavani off the bench. They've got, Ronaldo. They've got goal scorers all around the pitch. That's literally what's been saving Man United is their firepower. So I'm really worried. I'm really worried if we don't get that striker in. And then you've got to call into question. I think this is the other thing. This is a worrying thing where I'd say for Mikel Arteta. It's a big gamble by him. Big gamble on this Aubameyang thing, right?
Yep, massive.
Let's just say Aubameyang goes to Barcelona, right? And start scoring, which I wouldn't put it past him. I wouldn't put it past him. You know what I mean? They get a tune out of him and he starts scoring. How's that going to look on Mikel Arteta? How is that going to look if we're here and we don't have somebody who's scoring? Because remember, when we bought Aubameyang, he just hit the ground running straight away. Yep. And I really look at things and I'm like, I said this the other day. I was doing one of my transfer shows and I was like, listen, I'm just a fan like you're a fan, Dan. And, but I would really like to know a bit more about what's gone on there. Because if it's just he turned up late a few times, fair enough, strip him of the captaincy. That's not acceptable. A captain needs to lead from the front. But the way in which he's just been completely thrown away from the team, I mean, unless you've got a backup plan to that, we might end up looking really, really stupid here because it would not surprise me. He goes away on loan, starts scoring, and then we're left with nobody, or we bring in some sort of player that's, and they don't score, and then everybody then starts pointing the finger at Mikel Arteta and Edu and saying, well, why did you leave us so woefully short? Because some of the other players that have gone out, Dan, I can understand.
Yeah,
because
absolutely.
Let's remember, we've only got 1 game a week now. We're out of all the cups.
And it's dead wood, isn't it? It's dead wood that's being sold.
Yeah, so somebody like a Callum Chambers, right, he's not really going to get much game time from now till the end of the season. There's a lot of players there. Pablo Mari might not have hardly figured unless there's a load of injuries. So I get those. But the striking position, we are in no position right now, unless we've got a replacement, to be picky and choosy with that. Because we just, and then we're rejecting deals for Eddie, who doesn't score any goals anyway. So I'm honestly, it's a big gamble by Mikel Arteta. It's his call. It's his call. He's the manager. But
let me just ask you. So we've got a super chat here from Mehmet. It says, "Big up. What annoys me is it seems like Liverpool are strengthening when they're second, and yet we seem to have a clear out with no incomings. Worrying. Cannot agree more. We are not in the league of Liverpool and Man City at the moment, but we should be trying to catch them up. And at the moment, we're clearing players out. Do you think there's a problem, Rob, with Arteta and this attitude thing with some of these players? There's 8 players now he's fallen out with. Some people say it's great because he doesn't take any nonsense and he's ruthless and stuff like that. For me, he's very inconsistent. I see him pulling off Nuno Tavares in 31 minutes at Forest, and then the next game, I see Ben White and other players playing terrible get 90 minutes. there's a lot of confusion with some of the mismanagement of Ainsley Maitland-Niles, who the last time he kicked a ball in an Arsenal shirt, he got man of the match at home to Watford, yet he was then told to go to Roma when really we needed him that month. There seems to me to be mismanagement with players like Pepe, who he just doesn't seem to be wanting to give a chance to. Yet game after game, we saw Aubameyang missing chances, 5 games in a row we hadn't scored. If that was Pepe, he probably wouldn't play again. We see Granit Xhaka getting sent off, ill-disciplined, but the minute another player does it, he gets punished. It seems to me there's a lot of inconsistency. Do you put that down to inexperience, as him learning on the job, or do you think that there's more to it than that with Mikel?
Well, he looks like he's a very disciplined guy, and that's fair enough. But part of management is knowing who to put an arm around and who to be stricter with. You know what I mean? And I don't know if he's mastered that yet.
No.
You know, I really don't know if he's mastered that. It doesn't look like it. You know, he seems to have fallen out with a lot of players. I was thinking about it the other day and I was like, what other manager in the Premier League has fallen out with so many players? And I couldn't think, even somebody like Pep, who you think of as being quite a strict manager, Foden and Grealish, they were, I think they were out one day when, they straight after a game or something like that.
Yep.
They were dropped, but then they were brought back into the team. I don't know. As I said, with the Aubameyang one, that baffles me. The Guendouzi one, that was like, all right, just gone, vanished.
But
it's really hard to say because obviously we're not there. We're not there. We're not privy to what's going on
behind the scenes.
Suppose a player's got a terrible, terrible attitude, then fair enough, you might need to get him away. But I don't know. I really worry about this Aubameyang one. Sort of worries me a bit. I start to look on it and say, is it more to do with you're trying to force the guy out to get rid of the wages, like what you did with Ozil, rather than the fact that it's a big discipline problem? Because certainly turning up late a few times, the punishment that I'm seeing at the moment doesn't seem to fit the crime. So, and then, you see some other incidents that have happened even at other clubs. Lukaku went slated off the club, the fans, everything. They dropped him, but then they brought him back.
Yeah, he apologised and now he's back.
Made his apologies to the fans, to the manager, and he's back in the club. And it seems like what he did was miles worse than turning up late. Ivan Toney was pictured over, videoed over in Dubai saying F Brentford, right? He's apologized. He's they're going to bring him back in. They'll assimilate him back in. What's gone on this bad that the guy as Aubameyang is just like, you're gone. Not even nowhere near. There
must be more to it, Rob.
It's got to be more than turning up late a few times. I'm telling you, because it doesn't seem to fit, it doesn't seem to fit the crime. Right. No, so, but it's difficult because we don't know the full story. Right. And then the indiscipline of our team, the amount of red cards we get, that means that a lot of these hardcore discipline things ain't working, is it? Because we still got, Granit Xhaka. How many times has he let Arsenal down?
No, don't.
We could have got rid of him in the summer. I look at Bruno Guimaraes now. He's gone to Newcastle. We were looking at him in the summer, but we decided to keep hold of Granit Xhaka.
This is the problem.
There's a lot of things with this transfer. I think my two biggest problems is transfer windows. Number one, the striker situation. And at first I was like commending them because they were going for a big,
same.
If we would have pulled off that Dusan Vlahovic, that'd have been brilliant. Right. But then the other thing about it as well, we knew right at the start, and this is another thing that annoys me about Arsenal. We've been doing this over the years, even before Arteta come. At the start of the window, we needed a midfield player. At the start. To me now, I don't even know if we need him now. I don't know if we need a midfielder now, because I look on it and I say to myself, at the start of the window, we were still in the Carabao Cup. We had those 2 legs to go. We were still in the FA Cup. Right? And then we had some big games coming up over January. We let all those games pass and didn't bring in. We got out of the Carabao Cup, lacking in midfield, only Sambi Lokonga over the 2 games. Out of the FA Cup, played a midfield. We had to push in guys like Charlie Patino and that, lacking in midfield. We knew that players were going to be, El Neni, who had a great game tonight, by the way, in the African Cup of Nations. I watched that. He was fantastic. But we knew El Neni would be away. We knew that Thomas Partey would be away, right? And we know that relying on Xhaka is not a good idea because there's a guy that can get himself sent off or yellow carded. We know that, right?
Yep.
And we left it. And then we sent a guy that can play 2 positions, who was doing it well earlier on in the season in Ainsley Maitland-Niles. We sent him on loan right at the start of the window. Look at Juventus. They're saying to us, listen, you can't have Arthur until we find a replacement. And they've got loads of midfielders.
That's how it should be.
Right? They've got loads of midfielders. And we let him go, and then we left ourselves so short for these games. And now those games are gone now. They're past. We're out of the FA Cup. We're out of the Carabao Cup. And now we're down to the fact that from now till the end of the season, all we've got is league games. So even if we bring in an Arthur, how many games is he going to play? Because, Thomas Partey's back now. Xhaka's back. Sambi Lokonga's there. El Neni will be coming back soon. That's 4 midfielders. Only got 1 game a week to play. So now, to me, we needed that midfielder early on in the window. And we didn't get it. And basically, we needed a striker early on in the window as well, because we knew that we bombed out Aubameyang. So it's been I have to say, our transfer window this January has been a mess. Now we've reached the last day. I always look on it like this, Dan. When you bring in somebody now, the last day of the transfer window, the 31st, that means the first game he plays, and sometimes it could take a couple of weeks. They don't even come in straight away, right? First game they're going to play is in February. Could be mid-February. Mm-hmm. Then you've got March, April, May, the season's over for 3 months.
Yep. Honestly, mate, what you're saying...
Why not get that? Why not get the big target right at the start? Why not say, right, you know what? We need this midfielder. We need him like the first week in January, latest. Why do we never do that?
Mate, you're talking absolute facts. And I said the damage is already done because those 2 trophies have been brushed aside by the fan base. And I don't know why. Because there's so many fans I keep hearing saying, we wasn't going for the cups. It's all about trying to get in the top 4. For me, absolute madness. We had a great opportunity to get past Nottingham Forest, which was a very kind draw. And also we had Liverpool in 2 legs. And we worked so hard not to get battered at Anfield.
And we knew that they were going to be without Salah and Mane.
Without 2 of their best players, and we went to the Emirates and we had no midfield and no centre forward. We were bringing on Eddie yet again. So we have completely messed up January. The window is dead. The competitions we're out of. The top 4 race is looking pretty bleak after the draw at Burnley. And it's all to do with 2 men not doing their job in Mikel Arteta and Edu. Because, Kroenke, we know the money's there. If you're going for Vlahovic, you need 70-odd million. So for me, the money's there. They just don't have a plan B of who to go for. Now, the other thing, Rob...
They bid 58 million for Vlahovic. So it's a lot of money.
So we know we've got money, so it ain't the money that's the problem. And the other thing is people are saying we might have to get Jack Wilshere now. If we get Jack Wilshere in, right, I tell you this now, if we get Jack Wilshere in, not only is it a step backwards, but how foolish do they look that the only time that we needed this guy was against Forest and Liverpool right at the start when he was a free transfer. And we bring him in now, that's why we cannot get this guy in.
They're not going to bring in Jack Wilshere. And the thing is, as I said, we could have bought Jack Wilshere in early. We're not short of midfielders now. Look over in Dubai. You see, Partey and Xhaka, they're back for the next game. And Sambi Lokonga, that's free. And El Neni's going to come back. El Neni, the final of the African Cup of Nations is next week, Sunday. So after that, El Neni will be back as well. It could be back next week, Thursday. Right?
Yeah.
So we don't need no midfielders right now. Right? So
I agree.
To me, I utterly think that they've completely misjudged the transfer window. And as I said, what worries me the most is the striker situation. because, you know what I mean, I'm worried, man. Where are those goals going to come from? You know what I mean? Our top goal scorer is Emile Smith-Rowe with 8 goals from midfield. He's had a brilliant season. You know what I mean? 8 goals in midfield.
And he can't get in the team at the moment.
and he's been injured. You know what I mean? So, and he's been carrying an injury. It's been obvious to see. That's our top goal scorer. Right? I saw Pepe playing. Again, when we go back to this thing about falling out with players, there's obviously some problem between him and Pepe, I feel, as well.
Yep.
Because he hardly ever seems to figure. And Pepe, you know, I saw him in AFCON. He looked excellent. He's one of the best players in the tournament. Assists, goals. You know, he was leading from the front for Ivory Coast. He's probably their best player, right? But we can't get a tune out of him. The other thing is as well, Dan, I was looking at it the other day, and I came out of the Arsenal game the other day, and we were walking out, and there was a few of us, and we were chatting about the striker situation, and there was this old boy who walked past us, and I think at the time we were talking about we should get Calvert-Lewin, and the guy stopped, right, and he said something which I was like, you know what, this guy, what sense he just spoke. He said to us, he turned around, he overheard us, and he said, you know what, he goes, we shouldn't be getting Calvert-Lewin. He goes, why don't we go for Richarlison? I was like, you know, when you're driving home and something's like still in your head, and I was like, that guy's got a great point, you know, because what about maybe us thinking out the box a bit, right? Because I'm looking at the 2 teams that score the most goals in the Premier League, Liverpool and Man City. They don't have an out-and-out striker. No. They basically have like 3 forward players that all score goals. So I was thinking to myself, why don't we maybe adopt that? Why not maybe go for a, you know, say that guy's a Richard. Say you had Richarlison, Saka, and Martinelli up front, or say you went and bought a Rafinha from Leeds. The other day I saw West Ham bidding for him. Somebody like that, maybe have a front 3 forward attacking line which all score goals. Or maybe just think out of the box and go and get someone. It may not be your clinical. Sorry, no, that's the wrong word. It may not be your traditional centre forward, but it may be like a forward player that scores a lot of goals. Because let's be real, Mohamed Salah's not your traditional centre forward, is he?
Yeah, agreed.
Nor is Mane, nor is Jota. And if you look at the Premier League at the moment, the top goal scorer in the Premier League is Salah. Second top goal scorer is Jota.
Yeah.
So, you know, and then look how many goals City score. So maybe our style of play. I really do think sometimes Pepe playing in a more central position could score more goals. He used to play in that position at Lille, where he played a bit more centrally. Maybe we might have to adapt it up a bit like that if, you know, for instance, we can't get that striker. But right now, it just seems to be a mess. It really is.
It is a mess, mate. And I've always liked Pepe. I always feel he's threatening. A lot of people think that I've got this obsession with Pepe. I don't. I don't think he's even one of my favourite players. I just think he gets a hard time, and I don't think he deserves the criticism that he gets in comparison to some of the other players. I believe Eddie Nketiah has been given more of an Arsenal career in the last 2 years than Pepe has under Mikel Arteta, and I don't understand how you can justify that. If we don't get a striker in, we are in serious trouble, Rob, in my opinion, personally. We see West Ham... Go on, mate.
No, I was going to say on the Eddie Nketiah thing, what kind of infuriated me about Eddie is when I heard Eddie saying, remember he scored that hat-trick at against Sunderland. In the League Cup.
Yeah, that's his level, mate. That's what I said to you. That's his level. Sunderland League One.
What infuriated me is when they were interviewing him after the game, and they were sort of asking him about, you know, Arsenal and his contract and things like that. And he just kept saying, well, I've said to the gaffer, I said to the manager, I want to play. I want to play. So, you know, and I'm thinking, hold on a minute, mate. You're at Arsenal. You're at Arsenal Football Club. And the manager likes you. And your opportunities are there for you. But when those opportunities come, you've got to take them.
Mm-hmm.
And then I started to think to myself, well, hold on a minute. What other club in the Premier League, and me and Lee Judges went through it one time when we did our podcast. We said, what other club would Eddie Nketiah start? He said he wants to play, right? So you're backup striker at Arsenal. So I can only presume when you're saying that he wants to play week in, week out, he wants to start at another Premier League club.
He wants, exactly.
Name me one other club he would start at in the Premier League. I went through all 20 of them. And he didn't start at any. At the time, maybe now you could maybe make an argument for Burnley because they don't have a striker. But at the time, when they had Chris Wood, I was like, he won't start. Yeah, I said he won't start ahead of Chris Wood. He wouldn't start ahead of Pookie at Norwich.
Nope. I was going to say Norwich, but they got Pookie.
He wouldn't. Yep. He wouldn't start ahead of Mope at Brighton. Or Welbeck, for that matter.
No.
He wouldn't start ahead of Ivan Toney at Brentford.
He wouldn't start ahead of Dennis at Watford or Josh King.
Josh King and Emmanuel Dennis at Watford. He wouldn't start ahead of those. They're better than him.
I agree.
So what's the club? What club is it he wants to leave to go and start? He's not going to start ahead of Callum Wilson at Newcastle.
And Palace, he ain't going to get in their team.
He's not going to start ahead of Bamford at Leeds. He's been to Leeds before and he didn't start. He hardly played a lot of times. Right? So he's not going to start ahead of Bamford at Leeds. He's not going to start ahead of Calvert-Lewin at Everton. What's the club he's going to go? You're at Arsenal and you've got the chance. Go out there and score a few goals in that team and you will start. So things like that for me, when I heard that, I'd be like, personally, I would cash in right now. You got teams that are interested in him. I'd cash in, take that money, and go and get somebody else. And even at the moment, the clubs that are looking at him, like Newcastle and that, it's a backup they're looking for. So you're going from backup at Arsenal to being backup there as well. You're not going to start.
Mate, I'm so with you here.
Dan, is he going to start? Where's he going to start?
Bruv, I'm with you. The
he
only
might start in the
Championship.
He might start in the Championship.
The only place he's
going
going is
start at Southampton. They've got Southampton have got that kid on loan from
Armstrong
from
and
Chelsea.
Brozier, that's decent. Yeah.
He's not going to start there, is he?
No, he's not going to start anywhere.
Where's he going to go and start?
He's going to go and start Bristol City or somewhere like that.
So for me, I would have said, when I heard that, I would have said, you know what, let's move him on.
Why have we not? Why have we not moved? And we're rejecting bids that are coming in from Palace for like 9 million. People are saying
because
what's happening here?
Now we can't move him on because we've got no striker.
Man, I tell you, it's just so badly managed. It is unbelievable by these two. I don't understand the obsession with them both. I don't see why they're getting protection. This has been a mess. And if we don't sign anybody, it is going to be, for me, the worst window we've ever had because you're clearing out players and you're making our squad weaker. And people are saying we can still get top four. No chance. You get a couple of injuries and we're down. Let me ask you this, Rob, because I think it's important.
If we get top four, if we don't bring in a striker, it's we've got
miracle.
Lucky.
Oh man, unbelievable. Let me ask you this.
Sorry, Dan, and even on top of that, the team just needs something. It needs a spark right now. Anyway, it needs a spark, and that's why sometimes when you get to January, and we've just had a bad month in January as well. It needs a spark. It ain't like we won every game in January. If we won every game in January, we might be saying, "Oh, well, you know what? Do we need anyone?" Boy, you know what I mean? But we haven't. We ain't scored a goal in January. We ain't won a game in January. We ain't won a game. We ain't scored a goal. This team needs a spark.
Yeah, I must admit, mate, and I remember Bruno Fernandes coming in and doing just that at Man United.
Yeah.
Excuse me, and that's exactly what we need. We need something like that. But let me ask you this, because I think it's important. We've been linked with a couple of players, nothing like heavily, but we've been linked with like the likes of Alexander Isak, Ruben Neves, I hear mentioned today, Douglas Luiz from Aston Villa. We've spoken about midfield. Personally, if we could upgrade on Granit Xhaka, I would do it. If we're going to bring in another midfielder to just sit at the back with El Neni and be back up, don't bother. Just leave El Neni there until the summer. But there's a few positions that I do think we're short still, Rob, and we're getting rid of them. Now, I said right at the start of the season, somebody said to me, where do you think is key? And who do you think the key players will be in this Arsenal side? And I didn't look at who's going to score our goals. I didn't look at who's going to be creative. I looked at who have we got that we just cannot not have in this side. And it was two positions, Gabriel and Tomiyasu. Because when Gabriel and Tomiyasu are out, we're stuck with Holding and Cedric, and it goes wrong. They're weak links. They ain't right. We've got 3 centre-backs. We've got no holding midfielder. We've got a lot of backup midfielders apart from Partey, who I would take. All the others are just not good enough, it seems. And we've got 2 centre-forwards currently that are out of contract in the summer. Now, we're going into the last 3 months, as you mentioned earlier, of the season with that squad trying to get into the top 4. Now, that for me is just sackable from both Arteta and Edu if nobody comes in. We're going into that last few important part of the season with 19 players registered because all the others are under 23s. Omari Hutchinson we'll see on the bench. We'll see Molla probably coming into the setup. Charlie Patino, Salah, and Dean. All these players coming in on the bench like we saw against Burnley, warming up, and everybody's saying to me, anybody know who he is? Anybody know who he is? 15-year-olds they look like, some of them. So we need to get some players in. Now, if we do not, Rob, we've short at centre-back. We've got Saliba out on loan. We're short in centre midfield.
And
We've got Maitland-Niles and Mavropanos. We've got Guendouzi.
Who, by the way, I heard the other day, I heard him saying Bayern Munich want him.
He's doing well. And, this is the thing. We've got players out on loan that I think could have done a job for us this month. Guendouzi, Torreira, Ainsley Maitland-Niles, Saliba, now Pablo Mari again back out on loan. Balogun against Burnley, for me on the bench, I would have thrown him on if he was on the bench because he's an option. We didn't do that. We didn't have an option there. So I look at that and think we're really short as it is. We're paper thin. And we're making the squad even more so this month by getting rid of more players. So if nothing happens, for me, this is just a shambles of a job that Arteta and Edu are doing. So where does it leave them if nothing happens in the next 24 hours, mate?
Well, it leaves them, as far as I'm concerned, it leaves them having to make sure I think Mikel Arteta this season has to get the minimum of a top 6 finish. And I would still be a bit upset because I would have looked on it and say we threw away a top 4.
Same here.
But I feel if he finishes outside the top 6 this season, and we hadn't brought nobody in this month, and when you look at the month, we were flying high in December and how it's gone wrong, and we're out of all cups. You couldn't make a case for him staying on, because that would have been 2 seasons in a row that we finished outside of Europe. And for a club of Arsenal's size, that's not good enough. So that's why I thought, at the start of the window, I was looking and saying, Dusan Vlahovic, I like this. I like what they're trying to do. But it hasn't happened. And so I think the window, it's missed opportunity so far. Yeah. And I really do feel tomorrow they need to pull off at least one good signing because the fans they're really upset at the moment with what's gone on. We know it's difficult. Listen, January, I've been doing my transfer shows now for the last over 8 years, and I can tell you just by studying it, transfers in January are very difficult. Teams are well organized. Teams hardly buy anyone in January. Look at Man City. January is just another month to them. They're not even worried about January. They have everything in place from the summer. It's teams like us who, it's just a mess at the moment. And as I said, the Aubameyang situation, because they've frozen him out, means we need a striker. And we haven't got him in. We got a striker that we've frozen out that Barcelona and Juventus want. Barcelona and Juventus don't want Eddie Nketiah.
Exactly.
They don't want Lacazette. They could go after both of those two. They've only got 6 months left. Less than 6 months left on their contract. They could go and see both of those and speak to them and right now and make a pre-contract arrangement to take them both in the summer. But they're not interested in them. They're interested in Aubameyang. And let's be right now. Aubameyang's not pulled up trees this season. He had a poor season last season, and we know he's not pulled up any trees this season, but he's still scored a lot more goals than those two, and he's hardly played. And those two teams, Juventus and Barcelona, are interested in Aubameyang. They're not interested in the others. So what does that tell you? And we
It's
bombed him.
some madness.
We bombed him out. So I think if we don't get a striker tomorrow, I think Mikel Arteta has to bury the hatchet, go and sit down with Aubameyang, try and work something out, even if it's from now till the end of the season. Try and get a tune out of him. That's what your job is as a manager. You don't get on with everybody, but your job is to get the best out of everybody that's in that squad. Yeah, you don't have to get on with them. So
But
if
Rob,
we don't,
what striker has Mikel Arteta got the best out of? What striker has Mikel Arteta got the best out of in 2 years? Name me one.
I
can't.
I think Lacazette has done a good job for Mikel Arteta. I think Lacazette's not a prolific goal scorer, and Lacazette has given up a lot of his game for the way we play as well. Because he's constantly having to drop deep and into other positions to, you know what I mean? So he's had to forfeit a lot of his game in the position that he's playing. But yeah, apart from that, it took a while for him to put Martinelli in the team, despite loads of us saying, why is Martinelli not playing?
And now we're playing a lot better, in my opinion, with Martinelli in the side. So
yeah,
I find it difficult. I'm not a huge lover of Mikel Arteta, but I find it difficult when I look at what he's doing right now. And for me, he is potentially, and we don't know what's going to happen tomorrow, he's potentially shooting himself in the foot, because you've already mentioned it. If Aubameyang goes to Barcelona and starts killing it, not saying he is, he could be washed up and like some fans believe it. I don't think he is. I personally feel like there's a player there. Yeah. And I feel like if Pepe went out as well, we'd see both of them scoring goals, because I think there's a system problem, and I don't think Mikel Arteta's got the best out of these two players, right? So I think they will probably go to other clubs and score lots of goals. Sometimes people will say that it's, not Mikel Arteta, it's the players. But I've seen too many of these players not scoring goals. He can't get Eddie, he can't get Balogun, he can't get Lacazette, he can't get Martinelli, he can't get Aubameyang, and he can't get Pepe scoring goals. What does that tell you? If all of those 6 players no good, or is there a problem with our system or our style of play? That's the way I see it. So I look at what he needs to do right now and think, if you don't get a striker, you're basically telling the fan base that Eddie Nketiah is good enough. And we've all seen for the last 2 years that he isn't. You're saying that Aubameyang is fine to go out and not be replaced because we don't want him here, because there is something that's happened to him which he's trying to remove culture-wise. So you're telling the fan base there is no way, categorically, that Aubameyang can come back. So there's 2 options if we don't buy anybody. He's got to have more trust in Eddie and make the best out of him, or he's got to use Pepe or Martinelli and utilise them as a centre-forward, because we have to somehow score goals. Without goals, we've got no chance of getting in the top 6, mate, let alone the top 4. And the reason I'm going to disagree about the top 6 thing, Rob, is because we've come out of Europe, right? We didn't want to, but we have. And then everybody said, maybe this is a blessing because we can go for top 4 now. So to come out of top 6 in terms of European football, to spend 250 million in the transfer windows that he has done just to get back into the Europa League is a failure. There's no achievement there. And the other thing I'll add on to that is this. When I look at Manchester United and Spurs, at the start of the season, I thought Manchester United would comfortably be in the Champions League after finishing second last season and adding Ronaldo, Varane and Sancho to their team. But problems with Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, problems with their own culture, and we've seen again today more issues with players. I look at the situation and think top 4 is not just a jar, it's wide open. And there's a few teams that can get it. Now let's take a look at those few teams. All of them, apart from Tottenham, are in Europe or have been in Europe. We have not. Every single one of those teams, I would take maybe 3 or 4 players from, but I'd take more Arsenal first team players in an 11. And the other thing is, they ain't playing that great. Conte is the only reason Tottenham have got a chance. Ralph is the only reason Man United have got a chance. Plus, obviously, they've got a couple of attackers, which ain't really on form, but they could do at any moment. They've got some match winners. West Ham have got a better manager than us, in my opinion. Anyway, I know people hate David Moyes, but what they also got is some good players, but they've got a team spirit and team morale. But they've got European football, and I think they'll fall short with because their squad isn't too good. So I look at those teams, and I think let's say we come 6th this season. That means 2 of West Ham, United and Spurs have finished above us, who, let's be honest, are playing terribly, very inconsistently. So we have got only 18 games left, is it, or 17 games left, and we are going to come sixth, we believe. That for me is not good enough, Rob. So I look at that situation and think, right, you've come eighth, and now you've finished outside of the top four after your team you spent £250 million on. You've left a shambles of a January transfer window, you and yourself and Edu, and you've still not got us into the Champions League. How can we want Wenger gone for fifth place, Emery gone for fifth place, and Arteta it's okay to come eighth and sixth after spending £250 million? The guy needs to go if he doesn't get in the top four, Rob.
Yeah, listen, don't get me wrong, sixth is not good enough. What I would have said at the start of the season, I don't think there was any Arsenal fan that thought, apart from the most optimistic ones, that predicted we get into the top four. When you looked at the league, you said to yourself, the three that Man City nowhere near as good as, Liverpool nowhere near, Chelsea nowhere near, and even Man United at the time, and should be nowhere near with the players that they've got. You know what I mean? We should be nowhere near Man United because they've got a way better team and squad than us. So I looked on it and I said, those teams will be the top four, right? And then it's the rest battling it out for the other two places in that top six. So that's why I'd say if he finished outside the top six with the players that he's got right now, I would have said that he's underachieved. I would have say at the start of the season, if he got into the top four, that's an overachievement with the squad that we've got. However, where I would agree with you is that we've now put ourselves in a position where we can get into the top four. But I think we messed it up in this month, unless we can salvage it, because we've wasted a month. We've wasted the whole month of January.
Yep.
Wasted January. Wasted it in the cups. Wasted it in the league. And you know, that's where, you know, but ultimately, if you're a really, really ambitious club, you would be saying to him, right, we're near the top four now, you need to finish in it, or we're going to have to look elsewhere. But I don't know if these owners, you know, they seem to have a lot of faith in Arteta.
Yeah, they do.
The other thing is as well are how much of these decisions are actually his. I really would. Again, I'd love to be that fly on the wall.
As in what, the transfer window or?
So Aubameyang decision, to me, is that his? Or is that somebody upstairs saying, you know what, we want to force him out? I just can't, because I can't understand it.
No, I can't.
You know, so I'm just like, is that somebody upstairs saying, yeah, you know what, no, we just want him out. Like, remember how because I see a lot of parallels to how they did with Ozil. No matter what Ozil did, no matter what he was done, they were just like, no, we don't want him. And they just made it as uncomfortable as possible so that he decided to leave. So I'm like, surely Arteta, you know what I mean? Because Aubameyang's goals helped keep him in the job. Gave him success in the FA Cup and that. I'm like, and he was the captain. And is it that bad that, you know what I mean? So I'm like, is it something above? Are these decisions coming from above where the owners are like, we need to get rid of that 350 grand. Get rid of that and then we'll give you some more money to spend on. And I don't know. I really don't know, man. I really wonder if that is really his. Pure, I think he's got something to do with it, but is that purely his decision? Well, we'll never know, will we? We'll never know, but
no, we
it just seems a bit. As I said, it seems a bit suicidal because if we don't get a striker in tomorrow, and he goes out on loan and he starts banging in goals at Barcelona,
I can see it, you know.
Or he goes to say for instance he went to Juventus because that's another club that apparently interested. And he was playing alongside Vlahovic, and let's say he outscored Vlahovic from now till the end of the season, or something like that. How stupid are we going to look? It's a big risk. I'm telling you, this is as I said, when Aubameyang was left out of the team before, nobody really said anything because we were still winning games. Right? this is what us and we're like this as fans. So we're winning games. So it's like, but what if it starts going the other way? Because now people are asking the question, and they're like, well, fair enough, but get us a striker.
Yeah, 100%, mate.
Even some of the talks of Morata and people like that.
Oh, I don't want Morata. I don't want Morata, man. Morata's the most.
He's
overrated.
available. It could be.
Oh,
you know what? That wouldn't entirely shock me tomorrow.
This is desperate times if we're getting him. This is desperate times. A failed at Chelsea.
It wouldn't entirely shock me. Morata on loan till the end of the season wouldn't shock me.
Man, I hope not. Let's just bring this super chat in. It says, return Guendouzi, return Saliba, returns Torreira, Maitland-Niles, Bellerin, extend Aubameyang, buy another striker, get rid of Edu and Arteta, and we'll get the top 4. Rob, it leads me nicely on to what my last question is for you. My last question is this. We have, what we're coming up to? Yeah, nearly 24 hours until this window is going to be shut, right? Robbie Lyle is the Arsenal manager and he's working with the board. What are you going to do? And it's got to be realistic. It's not sign Messi, Mbappe and Haaland, yeah? This is like, realistically, what are you looking at right now in the last 24 hours? And I want names and I want positions of what you do before the transfer window shuts, mate. Over to you.
It's Operation Get a Striker or Get a Goal Scorer in my team. That's what it is. It's not even so much about the midfield. It's Operation Get a Goal Scorer in that team. And so I'd be looking at strikers. I'd be like Jonathan David at Lille. Could we get him out of there? Is there any possibility of an Isak? Probably not. Is there any possibility of Osimhen at Napoli? What about, could we get a Rafinha away from Leeds and go with like a goal scoring front 3 forward, similar to like what Liverpool do? But we need goals. And if all of that fails, then I'd be like, well, you know what? We need to sit down with Aubameyang, wipe the slate clean and say to Aubameyang, listen, from now till the end of the season, prove to us that you're part of this project. Prove to us that you're part of this team. Give us all you've got from now till the end of the season because we need goals. I wouldn't really be focused on the midfield. I'll be honest with you. I just feel that, that time's passed. We needed that midfielder earlier on in the month. Midfielders are back now. We're not as short in that, but we need a striker, and then I'd move on. If I got that striker in, I'd move on Eddie Nketiah and get a small fee for him so that we can use that in the summer. And who else? Yeah, probably be that. And if if Roma came back in for Granit Xhaka, I'd sell him as well and go and get myself a Dennis Zakaria or somebody like that, or go all out to get a Basuma or somebody like that. But those will probably wait till the summer. Right now, it's striker time, man. We need a striker, or if not a striker, we need another goal-scoring forward player who's going to come in and from now till the end of the season can get us, say, 10 goals. That's what we need right now. And that's what it'd be all about for me, a striker. If I just see a midfielder coming tomorrow, I'm still going to be very disappointed. Very.
Yeah, I'm with you. So at the start of this window, I wanted Vlahovic and Bruno Guimaraes. Right, they were the two that I wanted because I think they both walk into our first 11 and they take us to that next level. And that next level is not just like getting like for like. And not just promoting us to try and get back into Europe. That's actually going, do you know what? Top 4's on, and these two are going to get us into that top 4. The two players beneath that I would have looked at underneath them were Dominic Calvert-Lewin as a striker and Bissouma, because they're both Premier League proven. I think they're just what we need. Calvert-Lewin would be brilliant in the box for the goals that I believe we need a target man for, and Bissouma is that anchor in midfield that has that forward passing, and he does break up play very, very well. So I would love us to go and get 2 shocks in like that. Do I see it happening? Absolutely not. 2 reasons why. 1, because personally, that would be a lot of money, and 2, I don't think Brighton and Everton on the last day of the season would want to sell 2 of their best players.
No way Everton going to do it.
No way.
And they've just bought in Lampard as well. And
Exactly.
there's no way he's going to let Calvert-Lewin go. By the way, for me, I'm not 100% sold on Calvert-Lewin.
Okay.
Why's
that?
I like him, but I just look on it and say the next striker who comes in, I want an elite. I want someone that's going to give me 20, 25 a season. I'm not sure if Calvert-Lewin would do that consistently. I think Calvert-Lewin still misses a lot of chances. So I'd want...
Who's out there, though? Who's out there that can get 20 or 30 goals, do you reckon?
Well, it was Vlahovic, but he's gone now.
Exactly. So now we're a bit stuffed.
It's gone now, yeah. So, that's where we got to start looking, because, Liverpool at the end of the day, when they got Mo Salah, I don't think anybody thought he'd scored the amount of goals he'd scored per season. Or Mane as well, or Jota. So, but then as well, a lot of it comes down to how we play as well, the style of play. That as well is important. But yeah, I mean, listen, I wouldn't be against Calvert-Lewin, but I want us to go even better than that.
Yeah, likewise, I would. And that's why I wanted Vlahovic. I think Alexander Isak's link-up play with Martin Odegaard at Real Sociedad would excite a few people, because obviously he did get the 17, I think, goals, or was it 20 goals with Odegaard behind him. So a lot of people are talking about that combination working. Jonathan David is a player that a lot of people like at Lille. And Osman, I don't know if I've said that right, at Napoli, is another player that we're linked with. But it's looking very unlikely, if I'm honest. A lot of people getting excited about the Isak rumours from yesterday being in London, but they seem to be squashed. So for me, what I would probably look at doing that was more realistic in terms of two players, it would probably be Gini Wijnaldum on a loan move, because I think that he's Premier League proven and would come in and do a great job, in my opinion. And the centre forward that I think would probably the one that everyone's talking about is Alexander Isak. So if I was to put two names at you to say I think that will happen, it would probably be Isak because of his release clause. We know Arsenal have got money, and obviously Wijnaldum is going to cost wages and a loan fee for PSG. He's not playing.
Yeah.
So
you're putting those as realistics?
I would say realistic, Rob. But listen, I don't know. I'm just, if I had to.
Realistic tomorrow, maybe Arthur. And an outside one that I think could happen is maybe Douglas Luiz of Villa. I think they're big admirers of his. Yeah, but it's two midfielders. I'm not sure about Isak, if we'd be able to pull that off tomorrow. I'm really not sure. And I wouldn't discount Morata. Sorry.
Man, honestly, Rob, if we get Morata.
I wouldn't discount Morata.
He's not scoring anywhere he's been, is he? Do you know what I mean? Like, he's at Chelsea, he flopped. He's at Madrid, he never made it. Juventus, he's never done it. Everywhere he's gone, nobody wants to keep hold of him. That is not a good sign.
Morata or Eddie Nketiah?
Well, I've got to say Morata, because I'd rather have you up top than
Morata's
Eddie.
probably a bit. Morata's probably a bit more of a goal scorer than Lacazette as well.
You're probably
for
right.
being fair, but
it doesn't excite us, does it? It's underwhelming.
No, you're not excited. He's just a fugitive, isn't it? He just goes from team to team to team to team. He's just but I'm hoping and praying tomorrow that we're surprised. That on the day we're like, wow. Yeah. We turn around and we said, oh, hold our hands up. Arteta was sorry. We hold our hands up. We didn't. If we'd have known all along, that's what you was up to. We would. That's never what we want to be saying.
Yeah. That's what we want to be saying. Come midnight tomorrow, we want to be going, do you know what?
Wow,
right? Fair play.
Be fair. Also, let's be fair, yeah. In the summer, a lot of the signings that they made, we weren't all for. We weren't all for Ramsdale, and he's been a brilliant signing.
Tomiyasu.
So, and Tomiyasu. So let's see. I'm gonna reserve. At this moment in time, I'm really, really disappointed, but I'm going to reserve a lot of my judgment until tomorrow. I want to see what they do.
Yeah, that's a great way to come to the end of a stream. I love the optimism right at the end. Yeah, that is optimistic. Robbie, listen, big up to yourself, man. Thanks so much for coming on. I can only apologise that Lee Judges was late for his own channel, but let's hope.
That don't surprise me, mate.
No, it doesn't surprise at all.
He's out somewhere living it up. You know what I mean?
Oh, man, you know
Champagne. I know him already.
You do, mate. You do. Listen, mate. Thank you so much for coming on. I'd love to have you on again, mate. Nah, man, it'd be absolutely brilliant to have you on again.
Anytime. Thank you very much.
Much appreciated. Guys, thank you all so much in the chat. We've got just under 4,000 of you watching live. That's absolutely fantastic. Really good numbers. If you could please do two things for me. Hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. It costs absolutely nothing and it would please me and Lee Judges very, 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 very much. Thank you all so much for listening to audio. We're going to be back tomorrow night and we're going to be counting down the hours just like everybody to see what is going to be happening, which we hope is going to be a very, 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 very busy Arsenal transfer window. Let's hope so. Guys, it just leaves me to say thank you to everybody in the chat. Thank you, Robbie Lyle. And we will see you all next time. Up the Arsenal.